welcome to the Not Your Average Knits podcast. My name is kbridgeo. I will put all of my information down here on the screen. It is March 2nd. It has been 1 month since my last podcast. February just seemed to just kind of fly by. And this is episode 22. I don't think I said that. But yeah, February's just been really busy between kind of being sick and some work stuff and some family stuff. It's just been super busy and haven't really had a time to just kind of sit down and talk with everybody. Today there's a crazy kind of rain windstorm going on. So if you hear a lot of windows rattling or me kind of jumping and making sure that things are okay, that is why. So we just got back from a trip to Vegas not that long ago. My husband and I go every year during his school vacation because he's a teacher. And it was just a blast. It was a much needed kind of week away to just pretty much kind of, turn everything off and just kind of relax. The weather was crazy. Like if any of you are from the Nevada area, or I think even a lot of states kind of in that area, last week was cold. Like we left Massachusetts and it was probably a cooler temperature when we landed at the end of the day than when we left here in Mass, and that's rare. And then I think they had like a heat wave day here while we were in like 40-degree weather out there. So it's a little bit of a bummer because usually we kind of go there to sort of escape the cold and have at least a week of high 60s, low 70s weather, which we look forward to. But oh well, 1 year out of the many years that we go, and we made the most of it. So so that was fun. We went to the new Hell's Kitchen restaurant. If any of you watch Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay opened up a restaurant in front of Caesar's Palace where the winner of the last All-Star season is the new head chef. I think sometimes they just get like a short-term contract, so I don't even know how long she's head chef for, but so yeah, it's really cool. The restaurant was totally set up like the show, where like you actually see the kitchen and half of the people are wearing blue and half are wearing red, like the two teams. And the menu is pretty much all of like the food that you see them cook on the show. So I got a filet and a lobster risotto, which was amazing. My husband got the filet also, and like a mac and cheese as a side, which he said was the best mac and cheese he's ever had. I have a gluten allergy, so I couldn't enjoy that with him, even though that was probably my favorite food before I had to go gluten-free. So I was very jealous that I couldn't eat that. But that was kind of fun, something different that we hadn't done before. And then we also went to the Michael Jackson 1 Cirque du Soleil show. Usually we go to the Beatles Love Cirque du Soleil show, but we've seen it a million times, and every time we go, we're kind of like, we should go see Michael Jackson this time. So we did. So we got tickets. We were in, I think, the second to the last row, but it's a small theater. But I think if we were to go again, we would get closer seats and kind of be a little closer to the action. But it was fun. I mean, great music, obviously, and really cool kind of artistic dancing and acrobatics and acting and lots of really cool stuff. So anyway, so that was fun. So this week we're just kind of trying to get back into the swing of things. I'm trying to get back into knitting. I didn't knit a whole lot while I was out there. So it kind of feels good to be back home and in a regular routine. Before I jump into some knitting stuff, I did want to make kind of a, I guess, public service announcement. On the off chance that there are new subscribers. Hi, new subscribers. If any of you are watching for the first time, and welcome back to all of my longtime supporters. So if perhaps you're new and you've been binge watching all of my episodes, you'll definitely see me talk a lot about the company Yarnbox. They were the very first, so they're a yarn subscription company, and they were the very first really kind of exposure that I had to wool yarns, nylon yarns, usually cashmere, silk, all of that good stuff. Normally I had only been knitting from stuff from Michael's or Joann's or those kinds of, big box stores that have mostly acrylic yarn. And I think a friend my cousin had been subscribing to like all of the like Birchbox and those kinds of subscription services, and randomly I had been like, oh, I wonder if there's one of those for yarn. Googled it, found Yarnbox, kind of treated myself to a 6-month subscription just to try it out, fell in love, and that was back in March 15th. And I had been, I would say I was a subscriber for about 2.5 years. I think I ended my subscriptions in September. So recently they were purchased by new owners. who are actually kind of related to the old owner. And since then, things have really, really gone downhill. I don't want to fully bash and tell all the details, but things have been very challenging from a customer service perspective, from a quality of yarn perspective. There are so many members of Yarnbox who adore the company and really, really wanted to see it succeed, but it's been a challenging 6 months or so since the new owners took over. So I just kind of wanted to say that because definitely if you've been watching a lot of episodes, you see me talk about them and how much I, adore the yarn I get and love the process and the customer service and the Ravelry group. And I did a design for them as well. So, I feel a big connection to them because essentially they kind of totally changed my knitting, not that I have a knitting career, but my knitting lifestyle, I guess. Because I really started designing because I was so inspired by the yarn that I would get. Like I said, I designed for one of their boxes, which was really cool. Kind of, in a way, sort of led me to podcasting, led me to meeting all the people that I've met on Instagram and watching other podcasts. So, I have sort of a space in my heart for them. So I'm really sad that it's not really the kind of company that it used to be. So anyway, so I just wanted to say that publicly. There's also a new Ravelry group. So if you were a member of Yarnbox or even are currently now, there's a new group that started kind of by former members, and it's called Yarnbox Uncensored. Previously, or I guess recently, a lot of people have been complaining and providing feedback and on the original Yarnbox Ravelry group, where the new owners now have locked a lot of threads, so they're kind of preventing people from chatting about the yarn. Also, and this is so minor and silly, but I think it shows kind of what the current situation is. How in Ravelry you have all of the buttons below every thread where you can like, dislike, love, educational, interesting, whatever all of those things are. They even shut off the ability to do that, which I think is silly. Like if, you get that offended by a lot of people clicking disagree to a post, like it's funny because I'm like in my career, my 9 to 5, I'm a data analyst, so any feedback is good feedback. So if you see that 20 people disagree and one person agrees, maybe that's something you should kind of listen to, but anyway, so they even went so far as disabling all of those buttons, which is kind of silly. And some of the yarn that they've been sending out in recent boxes were actually boxes that had already been sent some months ago, or yarn from boxes that they sold as like specialty boxes, and that's not really what the club's about. It's about trying new things that you haven't tried before. So anyway, so there's this new Yarnbox Uncensored group, so that people who have enjoyed the subscription service over the years, maybe your current subscribers still, but obviously can't really chat about the yarn in the original group, there's this new one. So we're doing knit-alongs. We still have threads where we can trade Yarnbox yarn that we had. So it's still about Yarnbox and about the good things that it was, and is a place for the community to still kind of chat about it. So anyway, public service announcement of the day. I just really did kind of want to mention that because I do talk about them in a lot of previous episodes. Okay, I do want to talk about, I had mentioned last episode that I wanted to maybe do a knit along. So for March, which is what we're in right now, I want to do a cowl along. So hashtag cowl along. I will allow works in progress because what I will show you is that I started a cowl on my trip to Las Vegas, and that was before March started. So I can't be kind of doing my own cowl and not allow you guys to add some works in progress. So I would say as long as you're less than halfway through, it can count for this. I'm not going to be super picky about that. So let me show you the one that I'm working on. I know there's been a lot of kind of really cool cowl patterns that have come out. And the one that I'm doing, Amber of the Yarn Hoarder podcast had talked about, it's the Knitting at the Library cowl, and it's by iRock Knits on Instagram, and it's a really cool cowl, and it uses I think it uses 4 minis, but I actually am using 5 in mine, and I'll kind of show you why. So when I decided I needed a project to bring to Vegas, and the other projects that I'm working on are large projects that I just didn't want to travel with. So my friend Helen was over, so we were like, let's find an easy kind of smaller project that I can bring. And she actually brought up this cowl, and I had seen it on Amber's podcast, and so I knew I'd wanted to knit it anyway. So I bought it, grabbed the bin that I have I shouldn't say bin, small bucket I have of minis that I haven't used. Found some that I had purchased from the lemonade shop a while ago, probably a year and a half or so ago. She was just selling like kits of 5 minis, and I think I had purchased 2 different colorways at different points in time, so I don't know which came from what because they were all kind of loose. So anyway, so I had a bunch of those colors, so we just kind of looked through them and decided which ones would go together. So I'm using 5 colors. Let me see if I can, we'll talk about that after. This is in my the Scrappy Thread bag on Instagram. The first thing I ever bought from her was this flat sack, which is like a notions pouch, and a really, really good sized notion pouch. Like you fit a lot of stuff in here, but yet it stays pretty thin and is super easily transportable. So this is the first thing I bought from her, and then I bought a couple other bags in different prints, but then she came out with, similar yellow, black, and white bumblebee pattern. So this is her drawstring sack, I guess it's called. And it's a good size. Like it's small, but like I fit this in there with all my yarn and the pattern and a bunch of other stuff. So, okay, so let me see if I can show you one of each color. So what I did, so this pattern, if anyone's interested in making it, comes in, no, is written for 4 colors, but you do 1 section, 2 sections with each color. So when I balled the minis up, I did two balls for each color. That way, because I'm doing the pattern a little bit differently and I don't quite have the same amount of yardage that she calls for, I'm pretty much going to just knit the section till I run out of yarn, knowing that I have a similar sized ball of yarn to do the second section of that color. Why was that so hard to say? Anyway, so I have 2 balls for each color. I also, like I said, I added a 5th color. So there's a ribbed border on the top and the bottom, which in her pattern, I think you do in the first color and essentially and then in the last color, but I'm doing my ribbing in a 5th color and then just leaving the patterned sections for the 4 other colors that I have. I don't know how good these are going to show up because it's such a dreary day out. Let me see if I can hold these. So let me see. So this one's kind of a like a taupe color, and then a green. This is purple, and then did I do it right? Green, purple, blue, and pink. They are very subtle. They're a little bit brighter than what this is showing, but still really pretty tonals. So those are the ones I'm using, and this is what I have so far. So I am knitting these on size 4s. These are my Knitter's Pride Zing needles, which I think is the most recent kind of set of needles that I have. I don't talk about the needles I use that much, so let me just kind of, for anybody that's new, I've gone through lots of different needles. I tend to prefer interchangeable sets just because I do a lot of different projects, and I just was sort of hating the idea of continually having to buy new needles for every size. And I use mostly circulars, even for scarves, something you would normally use a straight needle for. I use circulars. Obviously go back and forth, but so I started using, I started using Knit Picks shorties, I think, one of their wood sets. I forget the name of the color of the wood. It was the green one. And I liked those, but was finding I just didn't love the feel of wood as much. I kind of like having more of like the metal type tip of the needle. So then I purchased Royale, Knitter's Pride Royale, which are the ones that have wood in the main part of the needle but have metal tips. And those initially, like, I loved. So I had the long needles, and then I even bought the shorties as well. So that was like the biggest set that I had, and I liked those for a while because it still had the feel of wood but yet the metal tip, which I kind of, for whatever reason, I kind of like hearing that, I guess. So I was using those for a while, but then I broke a couple, which in a way, like, I shouldn't have really broken. Like, it broke too easy, I guess I'll say. And I was finding that some of the ends were rough to the point where I was actually scratching the metal of the other needle as I would knit. Like, they just weren't smoothed over in the manufacturing process. So that was a problem. And then a few of them too were tarnishing, like the metal tips were tarnishing and turning this rusty orange color. And granted, I'd been using them for a while, but not that much. And, I'm sure it's from like the oil of my skin and things like that. But, and I had bought them from Webb's and they were really good. I think I bought the shorties from Webb's and the longer ones from Jimmy Bean's Wool. And both places were really good about replacing the individual needles I had problems with. But I didn't want to keep doing that. You know what I mean? Like anyway, then I switched to the carbons. And those I still use a lot. I don't have any problems with those. Those don't tarnish. I haven't had any problems with the tips of those. So I have a set, I think I have the longer needles, of those. So those I use a lot as well. And then recently I had bought a couple of the signature needles. I have straights to do the scrappy blanket and socks and things like that. And then I just bought 2 circulars in kind of common. I bought 4s with a cord long enough to do sweaters, and I bought 7s and a cord long enough to kind of do scarves and cowls and things like that. And when the Knitter's Pride Zings came out, they're manufactured very similarly to signature needles in terms of being kind of all metal, but still really, really lightweight. So those are, I use, again, the carbons and these pretty interchangeably. It just kind of depends on how many projects I have on the needles and which set has an 8 or, things like that. And since the cords can kind of be shared across both sets, that's what I do. Anyway, so these are, what did I say they were? 4s. And I don't even know I'm guessing it's a 16-inch. So this is what I have so far. So again, it's this taupe with the ribbed bottom, this really cool kind of like twisted stockinette section, and then this is like a faux cable section. And I think I'm almost running out of yarn at this point, so I think I'm going to switch to the next color now. So I'm going to do the pink next, the green, and then these 4 sections repeat again, and then I'll do the taupe rib part on the bottom. So yeah, it's a great pattern. The yarn feels a little rough, even though I've used Lemonade Shop and it's super high quality yarn, and the minis were too when I've used them in the past. I think it's a very, very tight twisted yarn, and I wound it in a ball, which I think tightens it more. So I'm sure it'll block out and be very soft after that, but it's a little rough to work with right now. And I think because I have so many stitches on the needle, I'm constantly kind of feeling it, so it's a little rough. But anyway, I love the pattern, and I do love the yarn and the colors. So anyway, so this is my cowl for the cowl along. I'm also hoping before the end of March. I've been wanting to design a cowl, and I think I had shown a few months back. I bought Shibui Knits Drift, I think from Eat Sleep Knit, in 3 different colors. So I've been wanting to kind of make a cowl with those. I don't quite know what I want to do with it yet, but that's sort of my plan. So anyway, so I'm going to hope to do that in March too. So I will put, by the time this is shown, I will have put 2 threads in my Ravelry group, which is Not Your Average Knits on Ravelry, both a chatter thread and a finished objects only thread. I think for prizes for this, I'm going to do pattern giveaways. I think for people that post in the chatter thread, I will give away my own patterns to winners, your choice of kind of any of my patterns. And then I think for the finished objects thread, I'll give away a free pattern for, kind of whatever pattern you want to a certain price point, obviously, on Ravelry. But I think that's what I'll do. I don't have lots of yarn to kind of give away as prizes, and some that I do have I'm saving for a 500 subscriber giveaway, which we're really close to. So I'm kind of saving that to kind of do a bigger giveaway at that point to kind of thank everybody who subscribes. So anyway, so I think I'm going to do free patterns for that. Cowls don't take too long, not really a super big project. So hopefully free patterns will be good. I know for me, like anyone who can buy one of my favorite patterns, I have so many in my wish list. I'm always happy to kind of have a free pattern given to me by someone. So anyway, so yeah, so go over on the Ravelry group, join it, chat away in the chatter threads, talk about what you're either working on or want to work on. I'm curious how many people are actually doing the Knitting at the Library cowl. I know that a lot of people have seen it and I think started it since Amber showed hers. And there's so many other good ones out there. There's another one I'll put a picture up from the Slow Knitting book by Hannah Thiessen that I have. And it's brioche with this gorgeous cable in the middle. It was kind of next up on my queue and I sort of pushed it down a little just because again, the brioche thing, I just need to be in full focus mode, and I'm not yet. Like, I have too many whips going on. But eventually I will do that. But any of you who like brioche and cables and want a really fluffy cowl, I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but I'll put all the info down. It's a great pattern, so that's another kind of option. But yeah, kind of curious to see what else everyone's doing. I'll show you. I don't have it with me, but so the very first, I think, cowl I did was the 3-color cashmere cowl by Joji Locatelli, and I used Shibui staccato. And I modified the pattern a little because I didn't quite have the same yardage, so I sort of made up some patterns in between and shortened some sections. But I wear it all the time. Like, that's my winter cowl. It is worn out over the last few winters, so next episode I'll bring it over. But anyway, so lots of good cowl options out there. So that's that about kind of crazy administrative stuff, and I'm 20 minutes in already. I'm apparently super talkative after not having chatted with you guys for a month. Okay, so to talk about what I have done, put my project back over there. So I don't have any knitting finished objects. The projects that I was working on knitting-wise are pretty large scale, and I'm trying to make progress on all of them, so I haven't finished any. Famous last words, right? But I did finish a couple woven things that I want to show you. I'm sorry. So last time I showed the yarn that I wanted to weave with next, and it was Phoenix Fiber yarn in their Tweety Pie line. So it's a very smushy, tweety, red, orange, brown, tan color. So I'm really excited with how this came out. It really is super soft, like almost just like feels like a blanket. And what I did with this one, I had 2 skeins of this, each 400 yards, and I hadn't done a project. No, that's a lie. I did houndstooth, which was 1 skein of each, but I think it was less yardage. But anyway, I wanted to see what could happen to fully maximize 2 skeins of yarn. The loom that I have is 15 inches wide, and it's a little tough to weave all the way to the ends for various reasons that I won't go into unless you're really interested in weaving. Let me know and I can tell you. But so this is a little bit less than 15 inches, but it's about as wide as I could possibly, as wide as I could get using the loom sort of as is. There are ways, and I actually just bought a couple classes off of Interweave, where I could double the width of this. You use kind of 2, they're called heddles, 2 of them to kind of, as you're weaving, you almost sort of weave twice, and it will make something double the size. Haven't tried that yet, but anyway. So, and lengthwise too, I made it pretty long. So let's see, half of it is about 2/3 of my wingspan. So, I mean, it's big. It's at least 7 feet long. And then for fringe, I haven't washed this yet. So normally, like, you wet block it, and I haven't done that yet, or woven in any of my ends on here. But I did this really cool kind of seam along the bottom, which kind of locks in the yarn, and then I did just like little knots for the fringe right there. But yeah, I just love kind of the crisscross of that hem. A lot of people will buy fringe twisters and like twist, a few of these together. It's really, I guess, time consuming to do by hand, and then they sell specific ones for fringe anytime knitting, whatever, they sell fringe twisters, but then some people will also use like those things that will like twist your hair into braids, like Conair, I think, makes one, and they're a lot cheaper and apparently work just as well. So eventually, because I don't make a lot of stuff with fringe now as a knitter, it's like I don't know what to do with the ends of my scarf. I mean, I kind of like it just, and again, this isn't washed, so it's a little kind of fuzzy, but I don't know. I can't decide. And it's hard with something that's woven to not have any fringe. Like, you would have to really sew and cut, and I'm not a sewer, and I'm too scared to cut. So this is what I have for now. Anyway, so this one's done, so I'm really happy with it. Just love the texture, and again, it made me think about, okay, if I have 2 skeins of fingering weight, I can make like a significant size wrap. Yeah, I mean, so I don't even have, so I mean, it's pretty, it goes down pretty far, so it'd make a really good size wrap. So yeah, so kind of good info to know on yarn that was initially in a yarn box way back when, that I had in my stash that I hadn't used yet. Then, I don't know that I even talked about this on my last episode. I've been wanting to do plaid scarves. What's going on with my hair? And there are other weavers, and even I think some people will do this in a knit item too, to do sort of a mock Burberry scarf, sort of that color palette and plaid pattern, and people call it faux berry. So I really wanted to do a faux berry scarf. A lot of people on Ravelry that have woven one use Knit Picks palette. I never used that before, and it is, I think, Peruvian Highland wool, so it's not merino. It's a little scratchy, but again, I haven't blocked this yet, so I don't know kind of how it's going to feel after it kind of is wet and dry a little bit. It also, I think, has the ability to felt, which for this pattern, I think I would be okay if it did. So I'm sort of on the fence of like, do I want to try and felt it? Or just, if it felts, it felts. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't know what's better. I've never felted anything. So I don't know. I guess if any of you have advice on either felting intentionally or not. So these are the colors that I used. The black's very blown out, but so the main color is, oh God, I don't have the color names. I'll try and remember to put them on. But I bought, so these I think normally on Knit Picks are like $3.50 or something. And then it was during their Valentine's Day sale. They were having kind of their red and pinks were on sale. And they also have those kind of value packs that are a little, you buy a few more of a certain color palette and they're discounted even more. So I bought some single skeins, some of the sale skeins, and then like one of the samplers. So I have a lot of different colors of this. Because it's plaid, you need more, and then you can use colors and others. So I did a whole scarf, which I will show you in a second and stop teasing. I bought two skeins of they're balls really, 2 balls of this. I think they're 50 gram. And this is what I have left of the second. This is the main color. So I kind of expected to use more of this. So it's kind of good that I didn't, because it can be an accent color in another scarf. And then you'll see black and white. And this, I haven't weighed these, but they probably used about half, maybe not even half of the black and white. And then red is just, it's actually more, it's way more like holly, kind of Christmassy holly than this. It's funny that it doesn't, I don't know. So this was just an accent color, so I barely used any, which is kind of awesome. So here it is. Again, I haven't done anything with my ends, but it kind of looks like a Burberry scarf, which is really neat. So it's just a matter of kind of following a pattern of, how many strands of yarn I set up this way, and then how many rows I weave of each of the colors. I'm still not really consistent in my weaving. I think I just want to finish it too quick, that I move too fast, and I'm not consistent and kind of careful about the tension, I guess, or the gauge at which I weave. And then this one too. This is so snarly, but I haven't cut it, I haven't trimmed it. I just kind of did the same hem stitching at the bottom of that I did for the other one. And again, this one, I don't know what I'm gonna do with the fringe, but so pretty cool. So it's definitely, I should say that too. So I bought the heddle that came with my loom was designed mostly to weave fingering weight yarns, but then I bought 2 more from Webs to do one that does more kind of sport DK, and then another one that weaves worsted. So this one, even though it's fingering weight, I did it on the one, the middle one, the one that kind of weaves sport weight. So it's a little kind of looser of a gauge, which is nice. And I think this yarn, because it's wool, will plump up a lot more like when I do wet it. So you kind of need that extra space to kind of let the yarn bloom. But anyway, I'm super, super happy with this. And like I said, I bought lots of colors, so I'm going to do a lot of variations of this scarf. I think, like I said, I have that craft fair that I sell items at. I think stuff like this people will be interested in it. So that's that one. And then the only other weaving thing I did, just real quick, so like I said, I bought that other one, the other heddle that uses worsted weight yarn. So I wanted to kind of play around with worsted weight just to kind of see how it feels. So I had some scraps of Malabrigo Rios, which is worsted weight. When I had done, I can't think of the name of the Infinity scarf, but it was by Isabel Kramer, I think. So I had used Malabrigo Rios in Camperista, one of those two, and sandbank, I think. So this is just a combination of those two. So they're just, you can see kind of both colors in there, the maroonish red and the tan. Yeah, so I was just kind of playing around to see how it would feel and how kind of like the tonality of this color looks. It's so interesting that you can like see this like weird red stripe, and it's only because in this situation the tan color, the tonal of the tan was actually a lot more brown in this section. And this is just one skein, like it was my scrap that I just kind of, did. It's really funny. Just shows the nature of hand-dyed yarn. But anyway, so I was just kind of playing around with this just to sort of see what worsted weight feels like. Okay, what am I doing? I am doing a lot. So let's start with my sweater, my Comfort Fade cardigan. This got put aside pretty quickly from last time. I think last time, I don't know if I had finished the length. I might have been close. I don't know, but I'm on a sleeve right now. The project I'll show you last is the one that I pretty much have been giving most of my time to. So I really haven't been, and now that I take this out, I'm like, I want to knit this right now. And I almost just turned it inside out, which in this sweater is wrong side in. Okay, so I have a sleeve, and pretty far along on the sleeve. I'm on my last color, although I'm going to fade in. I think I said last time I started using a 5th color, so I'm going to fade into that just for a little bit on the cuff. So see, I haven't knit this in so long, so the cuff ends up fading back the other way so that the cuff is actually the dark purple at the end. But yeah, so this is the back of it. Again, I should have watched my last episode. I don't remember how much I talked about, but yeah, pretty cool. I'll put all the yarn and colors and stuff up on the screen. But this is DK. Yeah, don't really have much more to say about it. I mean, I know I've talked about it before, and I'll continue to talk about it as I finish this thing. Of course, now it's March, and I won't really be wearing a sweater, but that's okay. But yeah, so yay, sleeve. And she recommends going up a needle size on the sleeve, which I did because I didn't want it to be super tight. So, I mean, there is a little bit of ease in here right now. And I know blocking it'll make it bigger. So yeah, so that's where it is right now. I'm trying to remember. So the sleeve does a set of decreases. There's two when you get out. See, I have so many whips all the time, but then the pitfalls of stepping away from a pattern and then stepping back to it and not really thinking you know what the pattern is and not. So when I was doing the decrease on this sleeve, you kind of do it twice per the round that you decrease on. So I'd been doing that fine, and then I picked up the sleeve, picked up the sweater to work on at some point, and for whatever reason, didn't go back to the pattern. I just had my notes of like what row to do the decrease on. But it was 2 decreases, and I had forgot that it was 2, so I just did 1. So I kept going, and then when I realized it was 2, I ripped back and did it the right way, which normally I wouldn't do, but because it was related to decreases and it's a sleeve, and then I didn't want the color set to be different than the other arm and whatever. So yay. So Comfort Fade Cardi. Definitely love this. Love my colors. Love the yarn I chose. I just need to finish it. Then the other project that you have seen is my Sunwalker shawl by Melanie Berg, I think. And this is in Malabrigo Finito. So still, yeah, I've done a lot. So where the stitch marker is where I was last time I showed it. So I've actually done a lot. So what I've finished so far is up to a section where now there's going to be like a lacy portion. Before I left for Vegas, you'll see not the next thing I show, but the new work in progress that you haven't seen. It's a different pattern, but it's the similar idea where you do a big textured section and then a lacy end. So before I left for Vegas, I'm getting to the point on both of these where I'm just done the main section. So when I come back, I can just focus on the lace piece. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty big so far. I mean, that's my wingspan. So, I mean, it's not going to get, actually, I don't even know. I don't know if the lace section does increases. So I don't know if it starts to close off the shawl or if it continues to increase, but it's pretty big. So I'll just show you a little bit close up. Mostly just kind of like a double seed stitch pattern. And again, I'm using my favorite smushy Malabrigo Finito, and this is the Paloma colorway. And I'm not alternating skeins. I mean, they have a little bit of differences to them, but I didn't really care for this. This is also in my scrappy thread bag. Okay, then, so I know I promised that, well, I think I promised that I would do one scrappy square in my blanket a week, but that was back when I was planning on still podcasting every week. So I guess technically I've done one before the next podcast. Well, I've done two. So I guess 2 out of 4 weeks isn't bad. And the struggle too, like I was all excited that I could get one completed in the combination of one day of commuting. The morning train, for whatever reason, has been a lot more packed. Like I've always had someone sitting with me, so I won't knit if someone's sitting next to me. I think they've been doing like one less train car or something, so then it packs everybody in, but sorry. Dry throat today. Okay, so here's what I have, my little scrappy blanket. So I think last time I had shown you these two that I finished. This time I added this one, which is Woolen Boon Classic in the Ever colorway. I used this in my Free Your Fade shawl by Andrea Mowry. Also, I didn't say, and I try to say this every time, that I don't tend to do show notes. I started doing that in the beginning, and it was so good, and linked everything and put it in a Ravelry page, and all the yarn that I talked about and stuff like that. But it really is a pain, and I found that it was kind of almost preventing me or delaying me from doing the podcast and getting it edited and up there, because I knew it was just one more step I had to do. So any project that I'm working on is on my Ravelry page. Feel free to friend me. I'm kbridgeo on there. I put every project on a project page. I link to the yarn that I use. I pretty much try and put the needle size that I use in any notes. Yarn that I buy, I put in my stash. So the majority of things I talk about on here, you really can find on my Ravelry profile. And please, like, always ask a question. If you have a question about anything, where I got it, what it is, if you want to see it again, like, put a comment either here, message me on Instagram, on Ravelry. I'm on all 3 of those places fairly frequently, so I will definitely get back to you. Anyway, so yeah, so this was in my Free or Fade, and then the other one that I did was this one, which is Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock in Intergalactic, I think. It was an Eat Sleep Knit colorway. And I did socks with this one when I started my sock phase about a little less than a year ago. So yeah, so this is what I got. I told myself that I'm going to stop and weave in ends, but who wants to do that? This, again, is in my bag by Woodsy and Wild. That's her thing right there, which I love. I love, like, the linen bottom and the fabric she uses. Okay, the next project that I'm pretty close to done, and you haven't seen any of it, so, oh, and I'm in the middle of a row. Damn. Okay. Oh, well. This is for Samantha at Lavender Loon Yarn. I was first introduced to Lavender Loon by Suburban Stitcher. So she had bought like a Christmas, like a 12 Days of Christmas kind of thing from Lavender Loon. And then one of the colorways that she got, I just totally fell in love with. It was Hearthside. I think I've shown it. I ended up buying it, so I've shown it on a previous episode. So that's kind of how I was first introduced to Sam. And so I follow her on Instagram now and check out her shop every now and then when she does updates. So she had posted on Instagram that she was looking for people to do a sample, some sample knits for her. So I absolutely volunteered. I love doing that. I love the idea of making projects for yarn dyers so they can see kind of what their yarn looks like. I know as a customer of any yarn, it's always nice to kind of, it's hard to look at a skein of yarn and be like, wonder what that's going to look like. So I appreciate when yarn dyers do samples and things like that. So the yarn that she sent me to do the project in, which you will see, is her MCN DK base. So it's 80% superwash merino, 10% nylon, 10% cashmere. 231 yards per 100 grams. This colorway is called In the Meantime. It's showing pretty good. So it's a kind of creamy base and then has yellow and gray, and the gray almost looks blue in a way, and then this kind of dark black, almost navy color, and just lots of speckles. It's really, really pretty. So she sent me a bunch of skeins of this, and the pattern that she wanted me to do is Hoarfrost by Andrea Mowry. And since I'm in the middle of a row, I can't fully show this, but I'll put a picture from Andrea's pattern page of what it's going to look like. But so this is, so like I was saying, similar to the Sunwalker, there's this big, big, big textured section, and it's kind of like a broken rib pattern. And then also has I-cord edges on both sides, which is awesome because it just gives like a really good sturdy feel to the edges, which is nice. Then the pattern part, which I'm doing now and in the middle of, is just kind of lacy, if you can sort of see that. Sorry, stop moving. And it's really cool so far, and I'm on row like 55 or something of like 90 of this section, and then I bind off, so I'm pretty excited about that. I may try and do a couple extra repeats. Samantha, I might have more yarn, like I still have this skein of yarn, so if I can, I think the pattern calls for worsted, and since this was DK, I wanted to make sure I could get to the size that the pattern ends up in. So we'll see when I'm done with the pattern how much yarn I have left and if I can add some more. But yeah, and this yarn is awesome. I mean, you know me, anything with cashmere or silk and merino, any combination of those three things I love, but it's just so smushy. Like I want to make a blanket out of this yarn. So yeah, so go check her out, Lavender Loon Yarn Co. On Etsy and Instagram. I'll put all her stuff below. Love her yarn. So yeah, so I'll show this when it's done, probably soon, hopefully soon. Okay, let me look at my notes. That's pretty much it for what I'm doing. The upcoming projects that I want to work on, so one of our good friends is getting married. He's been with his girlfriend for a few years now, so they got engaged and they actually just bought a new house, and they're getting married in June. So I wouldn't normally, well, and again, most of like our friends too that are our age like are already married, so it's not like since I've been knitting I really have a lot of couples to knit something for. But you know, like he's been a good friend of ours for a while, and he's really close to my husband, and you know, I've hung out with him and his girlfriend a lot of times. So and they're, you know, if I'm gonna say whether people are knit worthy or not, they definitely are. I had made one of my, I do like a double-sided stockinette striped scarf that I've made for a lot of my friends. So I did one for him in Patriots colors that he had asked me to make for him. And then she is a Kansas City Chiefs fan, so he had asked years ago, like for her birthday or something, if I could knit her a scarf in Chiefs colors too. So I had done that. So, you know, they both, asked and appreciated that. I made that for them. And then they're the ones that bought, I don't have it, but I'll put in a picture, but I showed it on an episode ago or so many episodes ago. They bought me this like dish towel that says, I look at it every day and I can't exactly, something like I like to party, and by party I mean stay home in my PJs and knit or something like that. So you know, they got it and they were like, I think like kind of scared I would be offended, but they thought it was funny, and they know I will happily be like, yep, that's what I would want to do on a Friday night, is stay home and knit in my PJs. So anyway, so they know that I love it. I mean, when they come over like football Sundays and watch the game, like I'm always sitting there knitting, and they'll ask like what I'm making. So long story short, I believe that they're knit worthy, so I want to make them a blanket. And initially I was going to convert my Times a Thief scarf, which is the one that has like texture on the side and a big cable running up the middle, kind of duplicate that pattern and make it into a baby blanket, blanket pattern, which I may still do, and just kind of write it out and maybe as a sample just do a baby blanket size and sell that pattern. But I don't know. Then, so I was just looking at blankets I had saved in my favorites, and the one I came across that I'm going to do is Umaro by Jared Flood. And I think I looked, and it was like been in my favorites since like 2013 or something like that on Ravelry. I think even earlier than that. So I mean, I've loved it for a while, so much that I thought I had already bought it, because when I looked at the pattern, I'm like, oh, I bought this 5 years ago, I might as well, but I had never bought it. And then coincidentally, the next day, I think or Brooklyn, either under his Brooklyn tweet or maybe under his Instagram, they re-released the pattern, and he did it with, I guess the pattern is initially written for bulky weight, and I don't know what size it was written for, but now you can he has directions for DK worsted and bulky, and then either baby blanket, like throw lap blanket, or like a big blanket, which is kind of awesome because I didn't know like what yarn or size I really wanted to make. So what I ended up buying, which is actually out for delivery, so if it comes soon before I've kind of started editing the video, I'll insert a clip here of future me. But I bought Valley Yarns Haydenville from yarn.com webs. One of my friends in my knitting group had bought this when we went to the tent sale, and she made this wrap with it, and it was just gorgeous and felt so soft. So this yarn is, I think, majority, maybe like 60% merino wool, something like that, and 40% acrylic, some combination, but the majority of it is merino, superwash merino wool, and then the rest is acrylic. So it's, wash dryable, and just really soft for being a yarn that has acrylic in it. So, I know a blanket takes a lot of yardage, and as it was, it still cost me a decent amount getting enough even with that yarn, and it's fairly inexpensive. So I think it's kind of a good in between. Not that they're not worthy of merino wool, 100% merino wool or cashmere or any of that stuff, but in a blanket where you need, 3,000 yards, I didn't want to spend too much. So anyway, so I bought that in like a very, very light silver colorway. I was debating colors for a while. I don't really know what their color scheme is in their house. There was a different gray that I probably would have bought, but it was out of stock, and I didn't really want to wait because I really need to get it done in I don't know when her shower is, or if I'm going to give it to them at their wedding day or at the shower. I don't know. But anyway, I want to get started soon. So they had a darker gray, which I didn't really want to go too dark because the pattern, I think, will look better in a lighter color. So I went with a very, very silver, light silver gray color, which I think will be pretty. So anyway, so I'm waiting on that. And I also bought from Webs weaving yarn. So there's yarn that comes on a cone, so you don't have to cake it, you don't whatever, it just sits on the cone, so as you're weaving with it, it just kind of comes off the cone, and it's like a tencel. I don't know if it's merino and tencel or if it's 100% tencel, but it's a really kind of sleek lace weight yarn that a lot of people will use as the actual weaving yarn, so that you would have whatever the pretty color is of the yarn that you have in the majority of the scarf or whatever you're making, and then this would be the weaving yarn, and it's kind of thin enough that then the focus of the yarn becomes, it's kind of hard to explain, but anyway, and so I got again a silver kind of color of that just to sort of have, and I needed to get up to their discount level, so I might as well buy something I need. Anyway, so the Umaro blanket is my next kind of what I'm doing, and then I still have to finish all these whips, so I'm not gonna cast on anything else until I kind of finish all of these things. I am gonna weave something next, probably try something a little bit like a solid color with a heavier weight and do more of a patterned weave, which almost adds another layer. Pearl Soho came out with a pattern that uses these things called pick-up sticks, where instead of weaving over and under every one thread, you can kind of change the number of threads that you weave over and under, so it makes a texture. So I think I'm gonna try that pattern because I haven't really done that yet. Kind of dig through my stash. I have a lot of collage DK yarn in a couple colors, so I think I might do something with that, so it'll be kind of more solid and then you can really see the texture. So anyway, that's my what's next. To tell you a little bit I don't have much what I got, which is kind of surprising that it's been a month, and I really haven't bought much. I've just kind of been trying not to, I think with weaving I'm trying to de-stash, and I did buy a lot of things I think in December and January. I just have a lot going on. I don't really need to be buying too much. Anyway, so like I said, I had bought a lot of this palette color in a lot of different colors. And then I from Wool Workshop, which is Gain Cocaine on Instagram, I bought some Plucky. So I had never tried Plucky before. I had seen a lot of people talking about it. So this is their Traveler's Sport colorway, and it is 65% extra fine superwash merino, 20% mulberry silk, and 15% yak, which, again, if you've watched my episodes before, you know I just love the kind of the feel and muted look of yak. And this colorway is Waders, Waders. It's just a really pretty, might be a little bit more turquoisey than that's showing, but yeah, I just wanted to try it. So it's only 325 yards. I'll probably try and buy off of D-Stash or something, see if someone is selling this, and get like a contrast color and do a 2-color something with it. And that's really it of what I bought. The one other thing that I received that I will show you, so I had been test knitting a hat for Dragon Horde Yarn, who is Tristan from the Girls in the Yarn Cafe podcast. I think I had just shown it. So she's actually released it since the last podcast I did. It is her Wanderwood beanie. Really nice hat, cable and texture, and you can kind of make it slouchier, you can make it smaller, really kind of flexible pattern, which is really nice. So for doing that, she sent me some yarn, just sort of as a thank you for doing the sample knit for her. So she sent me this one kit, and I think this kit is from her My Favorite Murder collection, which is a podcast that I don't watch, but her and her mom love it. So she did a bunch of colorways, I think, related to that. So this colorway is Look, Listen, Look and Listen. This is her Dragon Scales base, which is fingering weight, 436 yards, 75-25, and also has a 20-gram mini with it. Really pretty colors. You know, I love that. Yeah, this is much more green blue than the camera's showing, but I like how kind of neutral the base is, because then I think all of like the speckles just really then pop a lot more. I think I might weave with this, because I think this base would make a really pretty scarf, and then if I just throw in kind of like this, if I just throw in a couple stripes of the blue, I think that could be really pretty. So I think I might do that. She also sent me a second kit of a different colorway in her sparkly base. I think I'm not going to show it because I may hang on to that one and use it for a future giveaway, maybe. So you'll have to be in suspense of that one. But thank you so much to Tristan for sending your yarn. Appreciate it. The other club that I just purchased that yarn hasn't come in yet for, but I do want to mention it because I think it's open until Sunday on her website. Amber from Maker's Haven. She has Maker's Haven Yarn and Maker's Haven podcast on YouTube. She's awesome. I know I've talked about her before, I think. She's actually the one that had a commissioned woven blanket, which is what sort of inspired me to start weaving. And she actually just bought a loom too. So it's been fun to actually see her, start to learn how to do it and go through all of kind of like the initial pain of trying to get those edges straight and things like that. But she's so creative that I know that she will weave some amazing, amazing things. So I'm excited to kind of see her journey with that as well. But anyway, so she just came out with 2 different kind of mystery yarn clubs. She's doing a series that has to do with my favorite things. Her favorite things. So this first set is her favorite TV shows. So the 2 TV shows that she chose were Dawson's Creek and One Tree Hill, both of which were on, I think it's the CW now, but it used to be called the WB, I think, way back when. And those are 2 shows that I absolutely adore. I mean, I feel like anyone, I just turned 40, so I kind of feel like anyone in their late 30s, early 40s, where, sort of teenage, early 20s kind of age when those shows came out. And, to me, it was just both of the, it was during such important times of my life that you always feel like you could relate to the characters because you were about that same age at that time, that both shows mean a lot to me in different ways. So I was so excited that she chose those. So initially I bought just the Dawson's Creek one, but then I'm like, kind of want the One Tree Hill one too, so I bought that one as well. So she's doing, I think, 50-gram skeins with a 20-gram mini, so they're technically sock sets. As you know, I kind of shied away from doing socks after I thought I would be obsessed with them. So I don't think I'll make socks with them, but I'm looking forward to seeing if it's 3 months for each of them. So I'll get 3 months of Dawson's Creek and 3 months of One Tree Hill. seeing kind of within the shows and even across the shows how much the colors coordinate if they do. She did a small little video on her YouTube channel of just a little bit of inspiration, watching the shows, kind of the coloring of the shows themselves along with the songs and the characters and things like that, and quotes that the show has as some of her inspiration. But so I'll be interested to see how similar or different the colorways are and think about what project I could use them in together. I could also weave with them easily without even using the full skeins. I could, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm really excited to get those. I had been hesitant about mystery clubs recently. I did some, and they were fine, but I know that I'm picky about color. And I've actually never tried Maker's Haven yarn. I think she does updates every now and then, and I catch them sometimes, don't catch them other times. So I haven't really attempted to buy any of her stuff yet. But I love it. I mean, every time I see it, she's just so creative. And I love, she has some brighter colors, but it's just like the way she dyes them or the way they look with other colors that she has. I don't know. To me, they're just very kind of comforting and delicate and sweet. So, and because I know these shows mean a lot to her too, I know she's really going to enjoy dyeing these. So super excited to kind of see what they, and I don't even know when the first one comes. I think sometime in March, so we'll see. But anyway, so I think they're open in her shop until Sunday if you want to pre-order. So if you are interested, get over there. I think it's makershaven.com. If it's not, just check out her Instagram and you can find her that way. Then the final thing I'll say before I let you all go for the day. So at my work, I have a typical 9-to-5 job. I work at a college in Boston. There's a small group of us that try and get together every Thursday at lunchtime. And it's been for a while, kind of since not too long after I started. I think the group had existed a while ago, and then kind of we started it up again. One of the women works kind of within my division, and I know her pretty well, and she's been knitting for a really long time, and then a couple other women that I know as well. And then, we've kind of expanded to not just be a knitting group, like if people want to come and draw or do color by number or, color, and like coloring books were sort of, everyone's sort of creative outlet for a while. So it's just kind of this like creative, I don't even remember what we called it, creative council, something like that. Now, I always want to go, and then sometimes on Thursdays I just get super, bogged down with work, or I don't want to leave the building, I just want to kind of stay in my office or whatever. And then lately I just haven't really had a portable project because I'm working on these bigger shawls. Like because I commute to work, I just can't bring like a big knitting bag with me, or choose not to. Anyway, but so this week I had the Knitting at the Library cowl, which is easily transportable. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take a break from work, actually have lunch, and just, go and enjoy time with everybody. So anyway, so I went, and there was a girl there who was new to me. I guess she had been going to the group for a while, but I hadn't met her yet since I hadn't been in a while. And so we just started talking, and right away I knew that she was a hardcore knitter like us. She had a fringe supply bag with her project. She had enamel pins on it. And right away I'm like, oh yeah, like she's one of us, like, which, was awesome to see. But it turns out she actually lives in the same town that I just moved to, which is pretty cool. Not a big deal when like a lot of, people who work in Boston tend to kind of live within sort of the easy travel kind of circle of Boston, but still, to be in the exact same town was kind of ironic. And she is also a yarn dyer as well. So I did want to show you her card. So her name is Kara Murphy, and her company is Campfire Knits. So you can see all of her info on there, and I'll put it at the bottom of the screen as well. And she is actually vending at, I don't know the name of the fair, but it is like a festival in York Harbor, Maine. I think it's in late April. When it gets closer, I'll give you more info. A few of us might kind of go up together and kind of go check it out and support her if we can. So anyway, so I've never tried her yarn, so I can't say it's fabulous. I don't know, but she's fabulous, and I really liked her a lot. And she was actually knitting, the project she was working on was with 2 colors of her own yarn, and then I started following her on Instagram, and she's got some great colors and things going on. She's fairly new. She's only kind of been selling on Etsy for a short amount of time. So anyway, so I just wanted to mention that. Everybody loves finding new knitting friends. I said to her on Instagram, it was kind of like, knitting soulmate in a way, because we had so much in common, and she watches a lot of the same podcasts that I do, and follows people on Instagram and knows a lot of the the same crew of all of us that we all are so kind of obsessed with. So anyway, so hi to Kara if you're watching. And let's see. I think that's it. What time is it? It's been just about an hour, so that's pretty good for not having podcast in a month. I always hope to kind of get on a schedule. So we shall see if I can maintain that and actually see you guys next week sometime. Anyway, so I hope everything's going well. Hope you guys are doing good and that everyone's enjoying the projects that they're working on. Always reach out to me if you want to say hi. If you have any questions about anything, please feel free to leave a message. Click the love button on this, or the thumbs up button on this video if you like what I'm doing, or subscribe if you haven't yet. It would mean a lot. And thanks as always for all your support. It really means a lot. So keep on knitting, everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye.